Hi everyone, and welcome to our live webinar this afternoon. I trust everyone is doing well. It's good to see the weather report on the comments as we're waiting before we start. It's definitely a warm springtime right here in Texas, but we have cold weather coming back next week. So I hope that we didn't get spoiled before that next little cold front comes through. I'm so excited that you wanted to join us today. I thought it would be fun to look at red and white quilts. It seems like that all of us love red and white quilts. And of course it's February, and that's when we think about red because of Valentine's Day and all of that. And I also have a very good surprise sweetheart bundle for you of fabric that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. And then we're going to look at all of these quilts that are red and white. And these fabrics that I have chosen will work for any of these quilts. And then we've got some backgrounds we're going to show you that you can choose to add in if you want. And we also are going to have free shipping on a $150 order. I'll get to that here in just a moment, and just kind of have a newsletter to keep you updated of what we're going to be doing in the next few weeks. Now, first of all, let me go over some of this. I hope you have pencil and paper because I want you to take notes today, and it'll make it much easier when you text me or email me and you ask questions. If you know, if you've written down the names of the quilts and all that sort of thing, if you're wanting us to help with fabric placement or fabric quantities or any of that, that will just greatly help me help you. And so in saying that, we have our website that is squareinaSquare.com, and that is where you go to see the books and the fabrics and the kits and that sort of thing. And then we have squareinaSquare.net, and the .net website is our teaching website. So like this webinar will be put in the free webinar section. You can go back in and watch it anytime. You won't have to go back through Facebook or YouTube and search for it and scroll and all that. If you know that you have a dedicated teaching website, then you can just go right there to that, squareinaSquare.net. Now also, we have so many videos, so much teaching in there. We have search bars, so you can put something in the search bar and it will help you find it. There are literally, I'm going to say, thousands of hours of teaching in there. There's the section in the .net that is the free webinars that anybody can go in and watch. Then we have this section that is the Quilt Club Week, which is a week-long high fun time that we do the last week of September. We have 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, and so I guess 24. We have 5 years of teaching in there, and that's a fun, very creative, crafty sewing, just a wide variety of things in there. And I have guest teachers that come to Quilt Club Week. And then we have Premium Club, and Premium Club is my core group of students that I have all year long. We do a fall semester that runs September to the holidays. We have a spring semester that we're currently in, and it runs from January to the end of April, maybe the first part of May, depending on how many sessions we need for our spring projects that we're working on. And when we're in that semester, then of course our classes are live. You can interact and ask questions just like we do here today. But then those are put into the Premium Club website, and you can go back in and watch those anytime. And we've been doing that since like 16, so we have like 10 years of teaching in there. So just so much in there. You should be able to learn how to do everything. So before I get into the fabrics that we're promoting for February, the demos that we're going to do, which are the ones that you'll need for these quilts, and then of course looking at these quilts, let's just go over a little bit of info. So we have the .net teaching, we have the .com, which is all of our products. We have the free classes, the Quilt Club Week classes, and the Premium Club classes. And you can go into the .net or the .com websites and sign up with your email. Now, a cool thing about the emails, when you sign up, then you get notification for like classes like today, so that you won't miss anything. And then you know, that's just a great way for us to communicate with you. Also, we're starting to do teaching on all of the social media platforms. So Facebook, YouTube, um, uh, Pinterest, Instagram, all of them. We're starting to do teaching on those, and we're just going to continue to do that and rev up on that. We're going to have, between now and the end of October, we've got some other webinars that we're doing. We're going to be having a quilt sample sale. So we make all of these samples for our quilts. Some of them are quilted, some of them are just tops. We use them to teach with, to promote something, to showcase fabrics, new fabrics when they come in, and I just can't keep them all. And so every once in a while, maybe about once every 18 months or so, I have a quilt sample sale. So you will want to make sure that you don't miss that. The best way to be notified, of course, you can go to your favorite social media platform and follow and like and hit subscriptions and have your bells and all that. But if you want to, just go to the websites, either one of them, sign up with your email, and then you'll get an email about all of that. So the quilt sample sale is coming. You're going to love the quilts. And then we have a retreat that is, I think it's mid-April. It's the week that has April 17th in it. It goes from a Monday to a Friday. We only have about 5 spots left, but I'm going to be showing you quilts that we're going to be teaching. The retreat is really unique. It's goes from like a Monday to a Friday. We pick you up at the airport if you're flying in. We have people come from all over flying and driving in. If you need sewing machines or whatever, we make it just as easy as possible for you. I traveled for 40 years teaching, so I know as a lady traveling, I want someone there to pick me up at the airport. I don't want to rent a car. I don't want to have to follow a Google map to get to my retreat center. I don't want any of that. So we're going to come and pick you up and make it just as easy as we can for you. And we're going to be showing you some of the quilts. Now you can bring any square and a square project that you want to work on, maybe one that you want to adapt over to square and a square. And also we have what we call pop-out classes. So you can pop out and watch a little demo on a class. And then you can do that if you want, or you can go back to the project that you're working on. So it's a very, we have lectures, just a lot of cool stuff going on. I have extra teachers there, so everybody has help whenever they need it. And so you can go to the website, get some more information about the retreat, but I will be doing a lecture showing you the quilts and going into a little bit more detail on that. Make sure, once again, that you sign up at the website with your email so you'll get notifications. And then this February, we've got a promotion with some red fabrics. In March, we're going to have a promotion with a little bundle, and then also in April. So that's kind of some things that are going to be happening. And then, of course, our Premium Club, we have class every Monday, and we are learning new options. You're going to see a couple of those today. We're learning bat wings, butterflies, dragonflies, lily pads, and possibly we're going to do some angelfish at the end. So all of these different shapes for the square and a square system are what we call options. And everything just starts out with a square in the middle and strips on the side. And we're going to do some demos on some of those options that you're going to see in these quilts today. Now, if you've noticed, we've started doing little short reels on some of our social media platforms. And of course, you get people from all over watching that know nothing about square and a square. And they make certain comments about things. And in the years of me going to shows and demoing to thousands upon thousands of people, I have heard the same thing over and over again, you know, about when you trim this up, it's wasted fabric. Your edges are on the bias, you know, just all kinds of different things. But I must tell you that if you don't like your quilts, if you don't have speed, if you don't have accuracy, if you don't have sharp points, if you have unfinished projects because you're not motivated to finish them, then I think it's time for you to try something new. And that's what I have for years told people in my booth and in my lectures. If you like what you got, keep doing it. But if you don't, then let's try something new. We've been doing this for 40 years. thousands upon thousands of quilts have been made over those years, and all I can tell you is that it works. And if I wasn't doing square and a square, I wouldn't still be quilting, because I wouldn't have the speed and accuracy that I wanted, and I would just feel like I was boxed into a corner. With the square and a square system, you basically have one ruler that cuts every shape. It cuts them every size. It makes every different unit that you need for a quilt. It's really pretty amazing. And all I can say is that if you haven't learned it, if you haven't watched some of the videos, some of the comments that we get from people over the years, I would say there's, this is a stack of emails and text and messages that I've gotten just here in the last little bit. And I usually like to read some of those. Of course, I'm not going to read all these today. Just this stack right here has 8 emails or text messages in it. But I think when you can hear from somebody else, it helps give you the confidence to think, oh, okay, I want to put my foot out, I want to put my toe in the water and test it, and I want to see what that's all about. But one of the things that we hear over and over and over again is that I bought the ruler years ago, I didn't take the time to learn it. Or I wished, I saw it years ago, I didn't really investigate in it. Man, I'm so sorry I didn't, because I think about all the beautiful quilts that I could have been making and not having to just force myself to finish a project. Think about why you have so many unfinished projects. A lot of the time it's because it's not looking the way you want, it's not moving fast enough, you've hit a bump in the road, you don't know what to do, you're going to have to rip something out, come back to it. And when everything just looks great and comes together so neat and clean, you stay motivated, so you actually finish a project and you have less UFOs. So here is one that she says, thank you so much for shipping your gorgeous fabric. And I also saw on some social media pages just the other day that people were talking about some of the big fabric stores closing, and they were like, where are we going to get our stuff? I've ordered online and I didn't like what I got. Well, if you order from us, you're going to like what you get. The fabric is beautiful. It's the top-notch quality. The dyes are great. There's no negative. You don't have to worry about any of it. So this one is about fabric. Thank you so much for another smooth shipment of your gorgeous fabric. I honestly will not buy fabric from any other online shop. You all are the only ones who offer consistent, beautiful, quality fabrics, and the packaging and prompt shipping cannot be compared to anybody else. And I want to make a comment about this shipping, is that when I put that fabric in that bag and ship it to you, I want you to open it up like it's a gift, like it's a present. I want that fabric to be folded exactly neatly. I want it put in that plastic bag exactly neatly. I want it all stacked up. I don't want it just thrown in there loose, and then from pillar to post of shipping, it does all these cartwheels and somersaults and everything. I want that package to come to you like a Christmas gift. This one says, thank you, Steve and Jody. Steve is my husband. He does all my IT stuff. She said, my husband says I'm addicted to Jody's videos. I have never in my life seen anyone so committed to customer service and so creative to invent something that has totally changed the industry. And in saying that, I want to say that we have the website that you can go in and email. You can email us at jody@squareandasquare.com, and that's going to pop up here on the screen. You can email us at steve@squareandasquare.com. We also have a quilt text hotline. And this quilt text hotline I absolutely love, because it allows me to be right there with my students and helping them in whatever it is that they're doing. I like it because I can make a video, I can take a picture, you can make a video, you can take a picture, send to me what you're working on, what your question is, yada, yada. Now, sometimes I'm working with one individual right now. I don't understand what the certain part that she's referring to in the picture so that I can help her, but we can go back and forth and find out what people need and what they're wanting, and get you back on that road to success. So I'll tell you about the products and what we're going to use here in just a minute. This is kind of a big deal. This is your option notebook, and I have a 2-ring binder. I also have a 3-ring binder, and I have these plastic pages, And these plastic pages, you know, have the holes in them so that you can put them in your notebook. We use cardstock. You go through and you make your different options, your different units, and you put them in your little book. And it really helps to nail down what we're doing. It really helps you learn where we're going, what the different options are, and how the trimming is. So I highly recommend that you do this. You can go to the .NET teaching website and watch the videos on how to do this. But right now, on our social media platforms, we are doing little short reels, and we're showing you each step one by one, and we're doing them in order. So right here on the Facebook page, and it's also on YouTube. So on the Facebook page and on YouTube right now, you can go back in and watch those short reels of just how we get the basic square, square in the middle, strips on the side. I'm going to talk about the fabric real quick, and then we're going to, I'm going to talk about the fabric. I'll tell you about the books and tools that we've used for these, and then we'll get into looking at these beautiful quilts, okay? So this is what we are calling our Sweetheart Bundle. Which camera are we going to, okay, so here it is. So these are all 2-yard pieces. You've got the, I'm sorry, what?
I can't get over there.
I can see it. Okay. All right, so these are all 2-yard pieces. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is the Sweetheart Bundle right here. It's 20 yards of fabric. It's normally $280, and you're going to get it for $199, and you're going to get free shipping. So that's anywhere from $80 to $100, depending on your shipping, that you're going to save. You're going to save $80 to $100 when you order this bundle. And all of these quilts I'm going to show you today are quilts that we can make with this bundle. And I just am so excited to be able to offer this to you. So this is a light, and it's We the People. And this one is Celebrate. This one is the Red and Dirt Check. Now, when you make a quilt, you think about your fabrics as a light, medium, and dark. So obviously these are going to be some lights for you, your background. But this is always going to be a medium. And getting the correct medium in your quilt is the difference in that quilt being over the top beautiful. It's all about the mediums in your fabrics. This one is our Red Vintage Little Vine. This one is like this one, but just reverse colors. We've got this one. Now remember, America is going to be having a big birthday. In 2026, it will be 250 years old, so you need to get your patriotic quilts started and made. This is a great way to get going. This one is our little red fuzzy leaf, our red tone-on-tone flag, our red eagle vine, and then, of course, our red and tan check. Now, these are the ones that are in the bundle, 2-yard pieces. So 10 pieces, so that's 20 yards of fabric for $199. You cannot beat that, and this is top-notch quality fabric. Now I want to real quick show you some backgrounds that you can add to these, and I would suggest if you're making like a lap to an average size quilt that you add a background to your bundle. So I would say anywhere at least, like for this quilt here that we're going to look at, this one I would recommend 3 yards. You're going to need at least 2 yards of a background, but I never like anybody to be boxed in a corner and to run out. So you can, I'm sure you can do it with 2, but I would suggest 3. And especially with backgrounds, you can use them anywhere, so you can always mix those in with another project. Now the other cool thing about my fabrics is that these are all of my own designs. I always hold some fabric back, so if you're working on a project and it's, you know, months, years down the road and you need something, I normally have something for you to go with what you need to finish a project. So just last summer sometime, a lady had a project that she was making from about 9 years ago, and she needed about a half a yard of fabric for something, and I had it for her. So remember, I do hold a little bit back. So what I'm saying is if you decide 2 yards on this instead of 3, you know, there's a good possibility I'll have some more if you need some more. So let's look at these. These are Tattered and Torns. This one's the lightest. It's called Tan. This one's the little bit darker, and it's called Dirt. This one is also Dirt, and it has a tiny little floral in it. You can see it's a little bit more mottled than this one, a little bit smaller. This one has no print or design in it. This one has just a tiny little bit of a flower. We use it a lot. This one is called the Stick. It's got little sticks in it, and just really a pretty one. We use that one a lot. This one is the Leaf. This one is the Check. This one is the Eagle Vine. If you've been on the premium Facebook page, you've seen a quilt with this as our background, a couple of them that we've done here the last little bit. And then this one is We the People, and this one is Celebrate. Now this one right here is just going with everything. This is kind of my new favorite go-to background, and I want you to look at this one right here. This is one of the blocks we're making in our premium club. This was our class number 4, and we used this We the People as the background, and it's just gorgeous. This is just going to be the one I'm going to be working with on just about everything for the next little bit, because I love it so much. So go in and add a 3-yard piece of a background that you like to go with your bundles. You'll also have these two right here that are lights, and this one that's a light. And you'll be seeing a lot of quilts. When we do the lecture for retreat, you'll be seeing a lot of quilts with these red combos in them. Okay, we're going to get into the products and the demo. Do we have any questions before we jump to the next step? I hope you have your pencil and paper out. Okay, so this is the original square and a square ruler. This is the one we recommend if you're brand new to get this one. It does all the options. It does every size, the diamond options, the square options. It's the original ruler. And then this one right here is the reference book, volume 1. This is the one that teaches everything with the square. So everything we're doing today is considered a square option, except we do have some diamonds we're going to show you at the end. This ruler will do the diamonds. Then this is the diamond book, so we'll probably refer to this one. This is what we call volume 2 of the reference books. These are the main 2 books on the system. Options 1 through 17 that are the square, options 18 to 39 that are the diamonds, and then we're up to option 50 with our new ones, option 49 I think. We're also going to do Firefly. Now the Firefly is when you have multiple half square triangles in a row, and option 44 is our Firefly, one of our new ones. And then some of the quilts that you're going to see today come out of the Melee Women book. The Melee Women book is what we consider a pattern book. It has over 35 patterns in it. The book is $34.95, so $1 a pattern. You can't beat that. Now, one other thing is I always like to tell you when we're getting low on fabric. And so this one right here is called the Black Shadow Vine. Black Shadow Vine. And this one is almost down to the last little bit of it. So if you like this one, if you're interested in this one, then you need to get it all going to be gone. And we have a couple of quilts that I will be working on from now to Quilt Club Week time, to where we use this one, and then we also use the black floral, which is a lot like this. Okay, so let's look at what we're going to make. So everything we do starts out with, can we focus our camera out a little bit, please? While I get these set up. Okay, so this one that I've got lined out here, this is our option 4 half square triangles. We start with our basic square, we trim it, we cut it up and get the individual units, or you can leave them in 2 and work with them for the Firefly. We're going to do these in detail here in just a moment. Okay, so this one here is our flying geese. I've got a big one there for you. So when we trim our flying geese, we trim two sides sharp like we did here on all four, and two sides we leave the fourth, cut it in half.
Talk about the cutting off seam allowance.
Cutting off, yeah, we will when we get into the trimming of it, yeah. So, because that was a big deal on Facebook the last few weeks, is about trimming on these, people not knowing the square and the square system. I thought one lady was actually going to have a heart attack. Okay, so there's our flying geese. And then see how everything starts out with this basic square. And then the different ways you trim it, you get your different triangle units. So right now we're going to do option 1, we're going to do option 3, and we're going to do option 4 and show the Firefly on it. Now, one of the things is that when you come in here and trim this, so I'm just going to trim one corner so you can see what I'm talking about. And I'm using the mini square and a square. It does almost every size, and I just really enjoy working with it. So I use it probably about 70% of the time. Oh, I just grabbed that little edge right away. Okay, so when you come in here and trim them to get your shape on any of the options, see this right here that you're trimming off? Sometimes people look at this instead of looking at what you're getting, and they just totally come unglued because they're thinking this is wasted fabric. Well, if you leave it right here on your table, yeah, it's wasted. But if I have an unfinished project and I leave these laying around, that's wasted too. So I guess I always think about, am I looking at my cup half full with these beautiful shapes that are exactly the way they should be? Or am I looking at my cup half empty and seeing this? And I just totally don't get negative people. I just totally don't get it. But when you have these, and when you know how to sew these on, you're not going to have a lot of this. If you make your pieces too long, then obviously when you trim it off, you're going to have more. So a lot of this is controlled in the sewing of the basic square. Now, I want you to look at these two little crazy blocks. So here is one where we've just used the strips and sew them on our basic square. And then look at these crazy little things. So see how this is like a triangle shape instead of a rectangle or a strip? Well, do you know what these are? They're these. These leftover pieces can be sewn onto the side of the square. Now, obviously, they have to be the correct proportion for the square that's in the middle, but they're very much recyclable. And I have, when I get to one of these red quilts, I didn't get it out on the table to show you, but hopefully I'll remember. And I'm going to show you the scraps I had left over from this quilt. They don't even fit in a sandwich baggie, because I went back in and I recycled all of these that I trimmed off of my units. And then look at, so this one was actually, you know, the pieces that came off. So see, when I do my trimming, I always have a little basket or a little box that's by my cutting table. And the ones that are big enough for me to work with, that I want to work with, then I save them back. See, look at all of these. And see how it gets trimmed up, so nice. So look at this. It looks like you've just taken scraps and sewn them on. And you know what? I did. So don't think that those little pieces you're cutting off are not going to be able to be recycled. Now, also in some of the quilts that we do, the more you grow with your option, the more these pieces grow. And so, for example, there's one quilt in the Melee Women book that uses an option 14, so that's a pretty big one, and you sew around it 3 times, so you have a lot of trim offs. So in the book, I talk about, let's say you make 40 of these options, these option 11s. So you're going to make them 10 at a time. And the pieces that you cut off of this one can go back in and be the pieces that you sew on the other ones. So I just don't understand people being negative and not looking at the beautiful quilts you make because of these little pieces that you trim off, because they're very much easy to work with in other projects. And these pieces, when we cut them off, if we can use them in the same project, we do. Sometimes we may make the border first because those pieces are bigger, and then you can take those pieces and implement them into the block. And anytime you can do any of that in the pattern, I always remind you and tell you to do that. Now, as we go along, if you have any questions, holler. We are going to stick to topic today. So if it's a question that isn't part of what we're doing today, either send it to me on the Quilt Text hotline and I can help you, or I'll add it to one of the future ones that we're going to be doing, okay? All right, so in option 1 is where you leave the 1/4 of an inch on all 4 corners. And you just leave it like that. You don't chop it up. You don't sew around it anymore. So let's come down here and trim. So here you can see the 90, and it doesn't matter which ruler you're using. Just find the 90 on the ruler, put the tip of that 90 right into the tip and the corner of your square. Your black lines line up over your seam, and when you trim it, see that 1/4 of an inch. Now that's obvious. We all know that you need that 1/4 of an inch off of that corner. But when we come in here and start cutting through these corners for other shapes, those corners need to be trimmed different. So here you can see I have 2 sides already done, and so I just turn it and flip it and go around and do all 4 sides. And there's my option 1. Now we do have a quilt in our stack somewhere that uses the option 1, and there it is, just like that. Now the next one is flying geese, option 3. So of course you start out with your basic square. We're going to trim 2 opposite corners with the 1/4 of an inch, just like we did here on all 4. Maybe you can back out just a hair so we can get all of this in the picture. Thank you. And then on the other 2 sides, we trim sharp. We trim close. And this is what everybody was having heart attacks over on the Facebook and the YouTube page, because they thought we're cutting it off and there's no way that's going to work and you don't know what you're doing, all kinds of stuff. So 1/4 of an inch here and here, up to the tip here and here. Now when you go up to the tip, that's where you're going to cut it in half, and that's your 2 perfect flying geese. This seam needs to go directly right through that corner. If you do not trim sharp, you won't have that when you cut it in half and then sew it. Now look, when I sew a 1/4 and a 1/4, there's my point right there, exactly where I need to be. I always think it's funny. I've been doing this 40 years, and I did it just for myself. I started doing the square and a square system just for my own triangle relief. I was not happy with my speed, my accuracy. I was an accomplished seamstress, but when it came to quilting, I could not get that perfection that I was looking for, my smooth, flat work, and my nice sharp points. And so I did this, came up with all of this that you're seeing just for my own stress relief in quilting. And then friends started seeing it, and I started showing it, and then, you know, it just went from there. So I always just think it's crazy when people tell me it won't work. I've got so many quilts made just myself that I have to sell my samples because I can't keep them all. So now when I want to trim up to the tip, just put your 90 in there just like you did. And then we're going to step it over 1, 2. We call it the 2-step, 1, 2. And we just put that line nice and sharp in the point. Line it up with your horizontal lines. See how that's sharp? It doesn't have the 1/4 of an inch. And yes, this is correct. Do it to the opposite side. Now sometimes when I was over the years in my booth that shows demoing, people are like, oh, I can't remember all of this. And I'm like, yes, you can. There's basically 3 things that you need to remember. Everything starts out like this. No matter what quilt I'm making, I start out with a basic square. And I'm either going to trim leaving the 1/4 of an inch, or I'm going to 2-step, and that's it. So that's 3 things. And I get
Here's something
every triangle unit. Now we're just going to cut right through that point. And look, I have 2 perfect flying geese. Okay.
Here's some
We
encouragement
have
for you.
a comment. Renee says, please don't let that discourage you. Your system is amazing. I know. I just have to tell thank you, Renee. I just have to tell myself that when you put yourself out there and you start reaching people that don't know anything, you know, then that's going to happen. And haters are going to hate. Unfortunately, it's the world we live in. Was there another one?
Yeah, it's just agreement.
Yeah, I agree with you, Renee. I really like making flying geese with a square and a square. No trimming needed. Exactly right. And so, you know, we just have to, like you say, just let negative comments roll right off. And I do appreciate when I see you guys go on there and say, oh, I've been doing it, I love it, you know, and so on and so on. Because like I said earlier when I was reading some of the reviews and comments and text and stuff, is that when you can hear what someone else is saying, I think that helps encourage you to know that you're thinking about ordering from this company or whatever, and that it's a good thing. When I get ready to order from somebody I don't know, I go back in and check the reviews and see what they are, and was it really something that the company was responsible for? You know, if they're complaining about shipping, that the company really has no, once they ship it and it's shipped right, they can't help it if it for some reason fell under the bus somewhere. But we will always make it right with you, however the best that we can. Okay, so let's look at this down here. Our little star. Of course, flying geese make your points of your star, and of course you'd have squares in the corner and in the middle. See how you can put your option 1 in the middle. Now obviously my sizes are not appropriate to go with each other, but you can see how that option 1 could go in the middle. And just how simple and easy, how beautiful. Stars, this star like this, was basically why I came up with this system. I loved them, I wanted to make them, and they really were a nightmare for me. So I'm so excited, and I still love stars after all of these years. Okay, so that's our flying geese, our option 1. So now let's do our half square triangles. So when we do our half square triangles, we did the 2-step on the flying geese on 2 corners because we cut through there. Well, look, we're going to cut through all of those corners and get 4 of these. So what do you need to do? You need to 2-step all 4 corners because you're cutting through that corner. So we're just going to come in here and 2-step. And we all know that half square triangles are in almost every quilt that you make, and they really are beautiful units, and they really can add a lot of motion and movement to your blocks and to your quilts and your projects. And I don't want to sew on any paper. I don't want to peel any paper. I don't want to spend a lot of time prepping. I'm a kamikaze smoking needle sewer. I want to go in and cut stuff up and sew it together and not have a lot of prep time. Okay, so when it's trimmed up to the tip on all 4 sides, you come in here and you cut, and then you would cut, and you get your 4 half square triangles. And of course, you know, those can, we're going to see pinwheels and just, you know, half square triangles go in everything. Now, the new Firefly is when you trim it, just like we did here, because you're going to get half square triangles. Let's zoom out a little bit. You're going to get half square triangles, and look at this beautiful sawtooth border. So anytime you have 2 or more half square triangles coming together, you can do the Firefly. So instead of chopping both directions, just cut or slice one direction, and you get these. Now this is the Firefly. Now I want to point out, this is a flying goose because it has the 1/4 of an inch at the top. This is a Firefly. It does not have the 1/4 of an inch at the top. And this is what you need, okay? So you can see how if someone didn't know the system and they were just watching something, a short little 30-second clip on a social media platform, they could look at that and say, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I'm fearful that she's going to have a problem. But this is what we do. So you can put up to 5 Firefly units together. Now obviously you could put more, but I think you lose your accuracy at about number 5. So 2 up to 5 sew together. And of course when you sew these together here, you're going to get a blunted corner. And I have a sample right here for you to see. So let me scoot this up. So our students that have been doing the fireflies, we can now just say, oh, do 4 fireflies, whatever, and they know what we're talking about. So let's see what this little color combo has. Let's just, and this is our Firefly book that teaches you all about it. So obviously you start out with your basic square and you trim it right up to the tip on all 4. This is what I've been showing you. And then you're going to sew it together like this. And let me show you what it looks like. Let's zoom down here so they can see what we're doing. Okay, so see when you sew these together, see this one right here? You see that blunted area right here? That's a 1/2 inch. And that's what you need because that's going to be your seam allowance. So let's look at what we've got here. So here you can see how it's all sewn together. Here I've come in here and cut it in half. So you can see how I have my 1/4 inch seam allowance off of these. And then this very last one here, when I come back in and sew a 1/4 and a 1/4, there's going to be my point right there exactly where I need it to be. So you'll have blunted on your noses of your fireflies, except for the very last one, and it will be that sharp point. Now I want you to see when you have these as fireflies, look how you can do your borders. So see if you wanted to do a sawtooth border, see you just do these in sections of 4. Now on your fireflies you do get mirror images, so think about like for corners, see how they pop out, and do this for corners. And we have a whole, if you go to the squareandasquare.net, you can go to the webinar section and just put Firefly in that search bar, and you can see a whole video that we made just on the Firefly book where we start at the very beginning and we teach you what we call the characteristics of the firefly. We teach you how to change colors, how to reverse things, how to get angles going at different directions, the whole thing. So you have a video on that you can see, and I just love the firefly. It's pretty amazing. When I was teaching this to our group, it'll be about 2 years ago now, the words that they kept using over and over again is that the firefly is a game changer.
Here it is.
Yes, Petra says Firefly is a game changer. Yes, that was the thing that we just kept hearing over and over again about how much the Firefly is a game changer. Okay, so now that we've done the different techniques, we've shown you how to do those, let's go in and look at some quilts, and I'm going to refer to them. Now, I do have one more real quick I want to show you, and I don't have a full demo on it, but this is option 11. So let me see if I can walk you through this. We're going to put these together real tight. Okay, so everything starts out with a basic square, remember. So my white square was in the middle, and I put red strips around it, and I trimmed it up, leaving the 1/4 inch on all 4 corners. So that's just like an option 1. Then I went back on my option 1, so it would be going back to your option 1, see that 1/4 inch on all 4 corners, and I put the brown on all 4 sides. And when I trimmed it up, see how I did the 2-step. Now I did the 2-step because look, we're going to cut through all 4 of those corners. So see how everything we do, it just repeats. You leave a 4th, you 2-step, you slice, you whatever. So this is pretty amazing that you can get 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces in one square, with perfect points and seam allowances. So in one option 11, I get 20 pieces. 16 pieces out of one square, and sewing around it 2 times, I get 20 pieces in my option 11. Now option 11 is really fun to work with. This is actually part of what we're going to learn for our new option called Lily Pad. But look, if you put your pieces like this for a border, look how beautiful that can be for a border. And in one of our semester classes, in a January one, maybe in like 21, something like that, we did a whole spring semester on borders, looking at all the, or majority of the options and showing how to change colors, how to figure sizes, and how to do the border. Now this next one, I want to, I'll do diamonds when we get to the diamond quilts at the end. So on this next one here, let's look at this quilt right here. Now this one is, if you have an old book, let me get my little cheat sheet out here. This one, I just have down the option 11 flag quilt. This was in an old book called Borders by the Square. Look at these beautiful half square triangles that we did for that sawtooth border. Think about doing those with the Firefly now and just how easy that would be. But this is an option 11, and I'm going to point it out to you here in just a second. And let me get my little pieces. Now, you look at it, and it just looks like pinwheels everywhere. But the pinwheels don't really, look how they're kind of, I'm going to say offset. I guess I shouldn't say offset. When you look at how the pinwheels are, if you were looking at it just as a pinwheel and trying to figure out how it was sewn together, and you were looking at the seams, you would be thinking, what is going on with that? And you look at this quilt with all of these half square triangles and these pinwheels, and you're thinking, that's probably not going to be happening in my sewing room, because that's a lot of half square triangles and a lot of pinwheels. But when you can make them like these option 11s and then just sew 4 of them together to make the block, it's a no-brainer. So let's look, let's see if we can, let me get a little help. And we're going to look at these option 11s. Where did it go? Did it flip on me? It did, didn't it? Okay, so I want you to look for this plain square right here. See that? That's an option 11.
Let me go in tight.
Yeah, come in tight so they can see it. Okay, so that's your option 11 right here. So you have a square, 2 triangles, and that big triangle. So you have 4 of these out of that option 11 that you've cut. So look how this one, see how that square is down and in the right corner? And then look how it's down and in the left. So you're going to sew those 2 together. And then you're going to see this one right here. See how it's up? And see how this one's up here. So look how, if you look at these squares, it goes, you can just kind of see in the corner, down in the corner, down in the corner, up in the corner. And those 4 together, that's the block. And you just repeat that and then sew those blocks together and you get all of these pinwheels. I'm telling you guys, this is crazy. Okay, so let's look at what we did. So see how this is down in the bottom corner, down in the other corner. So see how if you just do them and turn them like that. So just lay it on top and turn it. Look at that. And look at these sweet little pinwheels that you have. So depending on how you do your colors, do some samples and see what you like with your colors. It's just amazing. So on the one that we have up there, we have the center right here as a light. let's go back down here for just a second. We have this one here a light and this one here a light. So it just makes these pinwheels pop out. So, you know, light and light. Start with a light, end with a light, and then put your color on your first set of surround strips. So see, you'd have white here, you'd have color here, and then you'd have white as your last one going around. That's that quilt. Look how beautiful it is. And see how these triangles interact with the next block. So let's come back up here again. So you can see your little red pinwheel here in the middle, and then look how this other triangle, look how it interacts with the other pinwheel. So are you loving it? I can't hear you screaming. This is just so awesome and easy to do. So this one is called Option 11 Flag Quilt. It is not a pattern. It's in an old book called Borders by the Square. So I want to show you, if you want to make this quilt, I'm going to show you right now how to use the charts in your book to make it. Okay, so on page 34 is where our charts start here in our reference book. And you're going to go to your Option 11 chart, and when you look at it, this little piece right here, it has an X on it, and it says, what is the size of this? So let's just say if this is a 4-inch square right here, then this is 2, okay? So if you do a 2 here, this is a 4, and so when you put those all together, that's going to be an 8. See, 2, 4, 6, 8. If you do a 3 here, then it's going to be a 3, 6, 9, 12. It's going to be a 12-inch block. So come in here and find this little size that you want right here in that very first column, and then just move across. It's going to tell you what size of center square, what size of strips, and what size of strips. Okay? So it's very easy to take your reference books and go in and build all of the different quilts that you need. Those charts are in there to help. And the quilt text hotline, 817-713-2879. That's there for help. So, you know, all you have to do is go to the quilt text and say, Jody, I love that flag quilt that you were making. Can you help me with the chart again? I'm going to say, what size of block do you want? And then we're just going to use that chart. Just that quick, sweet, and simple. Now, let's think about our bundle, our sweetheart bundle that we have. So if I was going to make that quilt, and I had this bundle of fabric, I would use all of these reds right here like this. You could use those for your pinwheels, and then decide which background you want to go with it. Any of these backgrounds that you want to go with it are going to be beautiful, any of them. And I definitely would order on my background. So looking at this quilt up here, this is what I call a lap to an average size quilt. And so when I refer to fabrics, it's like a big lap to a full. And so I probably would order 4 yards for my background fabric. And then just these 2 yards, of course, is more than enough for your pinwheels and your borders and binding. So order the Sweetheart Bundle, and then pick your favorite background and go in and do it. I think the We the People one is just really a really nice one to use in there. It would be a lot like this one with the, I don't know how well you can see, but there's a little red dot in there. Okay, let's look at this one here on the table. And of course, for your sawtooth border. So this one here on the table, we have our sawtooth border. We have individual pinwheels. So I would do these, you could do 2 together for a Firefly to make your pinwheels, or you could do them just the regular option 4 and do them. And look how you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 4 plain squares. Look how the backgrounds are all mixed up. So you could use all 3 of those backgrounds here for your backgrounds, and all of these reds for your strips. And look what a beautiful quilt you're going to have with this bundle. And you can go in and make any block that you want, whether it's a plain block, whether it's an applique block, whether it's a bigger pieced block. You can go in and put anything here in your settings and your sashings. And then of course that sawtooth border. This one also uses option 4, and it's a great way to implement the Firefly. Oh, let me back up just a minute on this one. There's this one, if you go to your Melee Women book, which is this one, there's one called Luke's Pinwheel, and that's where you can find this one, and there's some applique pieces in there too. All right, this one is called Union Square. We do have a few kits for these left, and it is on sale. The kits were normally, it's called Union Square. It is a individual pattern. You can get a kit for it. The quilt is 52 by 52. The kit was $179, and it is on sale now. I'm not positive. Either $145, $149, something like that. So you're going to get, I'm going to say $20 to $30 off of it. And then you can also choose a back to go with it on the website, and you save on the back if you get the back at the same time. So this is an individual pattern. We've used our half square triangles. So you can use your fireflies if you want. Also in the Firefly book, it talks about when you want a flying goose with a firefly on each end. So you can do these like this from the Firefly book. And then inside here in the middle, this is a big option 1. Square in the middle with the red strips on the side. I really love the combination of these checks. Now remember I talked about how I have a lot of checks that react as a medium in a quilt, and this is a medium in a quilt. This would be a medium in a quilt. And when you can get your mediums right, when you're choosing your colors for your quilts, it's going to help make your quilt over the top beautiful. And I bet when you look at quilts that you like and you get to dissecting the colors in them, you're going to realize it's that medium color that's in that quilt that really sends it over the top to be a beautiful quilt. And this one is from our railroad fabric, so this has the trains on it here, and this dark part in here is the trains. So if you have a young man, a little boy, someone that's retired from the railroad, this is a great one for you. And of course you can see the railroad track that we've used on the border, and there it is on the back. And all of these railroad fabrics are discounted on the website, so even if you want loose yardage, you can go in there and get them. Now this next one is called Crazy 9 Patch, and this quilt was made in the mid-90s. It's been one of my most popular favorite quilts over the years. Probably getting close to 30 years old, and we did something a little different. So think about how we have a square in the middle of our basic square, but I want you to look at this one here. Look how we put a 9 patch in the middle. So we had a 9 patch in the middle, surrounded it with our green, trimmed it up, leaving that 1/4 of an inch, and we get this one. Then these on the side here, I want you to see how this was our 9 patch. So here you can see our 9 patch. It's sewn so that these reds straight line through the quilt, vertical and horizontal. We did background strips on 2 sides and red on 2 sides. So that means that these 2 were light and these 2 were dark. And then see how you put, see there's one, so those just go so that the lights touch, and look how the red comes to be the point on the star. And this one's called Crazy 9 Patch. We don't have any kits for it, obviously, because this is older fabrics. and we haven't remade this one in a while, but we did remake this one multiple times. We have a blue quilt top that is this Crazy for Red in Blue, the Crazy 9 patch, that's going to be for sale in our sample sale. So beautiful quilt that's coming. Okay, so that's Crazy 9 patch. Now this other one, this one right here that you see, this one is called the Weather Vane. It's an individual pattern. We always give you lots of block sizes. This one is probably, I'm going to guess and say this is a 6-inch block, but in our patterns, just like with Union Square and this one, and also in our books, we try to give you multiple block sizes. So if you want to make it larger or smaller, you can. So first of all, let's look at the block. See, it's got these sashings and cornerstones that come together that are really cool. So there's our block. So here you can see we have plain squares in the corner, and here we have 2 flying geese. So that's option 3. And then right down here, this little flower shape right here, this is an option 11. So let me get those 11s. So there's that option 11 right there, and we just put a flying goose on 2 sides and a little square in the corner, and we get this little shape that we call a star flower. So this little shape goes out like this, and then it's going to go out like this, and then it goes out, and when the 4 of those come together, shabam, there is your Weather Vane block. And I think it's just really sweet, really cute. And of course, all of these fabrics in our Sweetheart bundle, you can make multiple quilts out of this Sweetheart bundle. You wouldn't have to choose just one unless you decided that you wanted a large one. And this one right here is our Liz's Gift, and it is in the Melee Women book, and we're going to come back to it because it has some diamond shapes in it, and I want to show you how to cut these easy diamond shapes. So this is one block, and this is one that we're going to be teaching in Quilt Club Week this year. So that's one block, and that's called the Bridal Veil Wreath. And then when you put them together, you just sew the blocks right next to each other. Look at that beautiful circle. So we'll come back to that one and talk about it a little bit more, but let them keep looking at that for just a moment. Let's come up here and look at this beautiful one. This one is called, this one right here is called Lady of the Lake. And we taught it in Premium Club, I think last year. So if you're, Quilt Club Week, if you're Quilt Club Week, or if you want to go join Quilt Club Week, we've got the teaching for it in there. And look at these beautiful half square triangles, and look how we made them create a pinwheel in the middle when they come together. So it's kind of, it's Lady of the Lake, but it looks kind of like a fan windmill shape. And that one we do have a kit. The quilt is 52 by 52, and I don't have the price written down on my sheet, but it will show you on the website what it is. And be sure and check if there's backing and binding in those kits, and if there's not, then there's usually a place where you can order those and get those at a discounted price when you get them with your kit. And that one is Lady of the Lake. And we've just used 2 reds. So you could come in here from your Sweetheart bundle, pick 2 or 3 that you like, and make your, and then add your background. I would say get once again a 2 or 3 yard piece of your background. I love this. Now you could add a little bit of black to here if you wanted to do black pinwheels in the middle and some black on your binding. That would, on your border, that would be really great if you wanted to do that. Now let's look at this one. Here's our actual Sweetheart. This quilt has a lot of memories for me. This was made early 80s, and my youngest sister was in college at that time, and she was going to come and spend a couple of weeks with me that summer. We had a swimming pool. My boys were young grade school or even younger. And she was going to come and help me with the kids. I had another little part-time job I was doing, but she loved to sew and craft and all that. And I didn't have a sewing room, so during those 3 weeks that she spent with us that summer, I had a kind of a big old living room, big living rooms like you have in older houses. And we pushed all the furniture back. We set up cutting tables and sewing machines. We had a place for the little boys to play, and we just sewed. And I didn't have fabric. I didn't have a stash. I wasn't really officially a quilter at that time. So these were just scraps, and these were all different. Even different weights and textures. I don't know that was really even like a fabric that came off of a bolt. It was just all scraps from everything. And this one is called the Sweetheart pattern, and it is an individual pattern that you can get on the website. And if you got the email, then all of those quilts have links on them on the email, so it makes it really easy for you to go in and look at that on the website, purchase it if you want to, and so on. So this is the Sweetheart one. And then you're going to have a lot of little pieces left over from your squares, you know, depending on your scraps and your length of everything. So look at this really pretty, just a little square border. I love doing that just with my leftovers. Lots of times, especially in the beginning, I didn't think about what my borders would be. I waited till I saw what fabrics I had left over. Maybe I'd made some pieces that I didn't use. Maybe I wanted to incorporate them in the border. I just waited for the quilt to talk to me as it was being made as to what it wanted and needed for that border. Now this one here is a bear paw. When you look at it, it is a bear paw. It is in the reference book. It is on page 100, but you'll see it in the reference book as a goose paw. Now the reason why it's a goose paw is because we didn't build this quilt as a bear paw. You see this bear paw right here, but this is the block. And you can see how we have plain squares in the corner, 2 sets of flying geese, another plain square. Think how easy that is to sew together. It's just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then you put a sashing and a cornerstone, and the reaction of those 4 blocks coming together create your bear paw. And I've always wanted to remake this when I usually make my quilts at least 3 times, doing them and showing them in other colors. This one didn't mean to be Christmassy, but it's kind of a little red and green berry. And this fabric all came from, this quilt all came from this fabric. That was like my main or my focus fabrics, and then I chose the other ones to go along with it. And I probably had maybe 3 yards of that. I usually buy 3 yards of a focus or a main print if I don't know what I'm going to do with it. That way I can use it in a border and then use it in the block. But I really think this would be pretty, you know, like to have multiple colors of bear paws. So say this one is your red, so that side of your flying geese would be red. And then if this one came together and it was blue or green or gold or purple or whatever, then you would have the other side of your flying goose be that other color. It would look like it was a lot of work and a lot of hassle working with those colors, but really that's just pretty much as simple as you can get. Okay, let's look at these 2 over here on the quilt rack. Can we get around over here on these? Now, if you've been on the premium page, want me to pull it over a little bit? That work? Okay. I don't want to pull cameras and lights and Okay, so this one right here is Jingle Jangle. It's also known as Jack's Chain. And you can go into Pinterest and you can look at a lot of different color combos of the Jack chain, but they want you to set it together in curves and Y seams and set in pieces like a wedding ring quilt. But of course, with the square and a square, we make everything simple, everything just straight line. And this is just a straight line quilt. And I couldn't believe how quickly it went together. It's a huge quilt. Of course, you can make it whatever size you want. We used a 9 patch, and then you can see how they're set at an angle. So you make your 9 patch, you put your strips around on it, and then you use the 60 on the ruler, and that gives you the wonkiness of it going back and forth, and it creates this circle going on. It's so big I didn't have a place to show you, but if you go into some of the webinars and look and just put in Jingle Jangle, or just Jingle, then any videos that have that in it will pop up so that you can get more details on it. Now this one has a lot of little, we talked about excuse me. We talked about how these pieces that you trim off, how you can recycle them back into a block. So this quilt was actually made and started because I had a lot of these little pieces left over from this quilt right here that we're going to see here in a few minutes. So I made this quilt, I took my leftover pieces, and I made this quilt. And I let them keep looking at those, and I'm going to see if I have something down here in this drawer. That's easy to get. Maybe not, but I'm going to try. Hang with me just a second here. Okay, I found it. It was worth it. Okay, so I made this quilt. I had a lot of those bigger triangles left over. I took those bigger triangles and I worked them into this quilt. So from this one underneath here that you're going to see, this is all the scraps and trim off I had. That's all I had left over from 2 quilts, because I kept reincorporating them and working them into the project. All right, this one right here is also in the reference book. It's called Turkey Tracks, and it's on page 81. And we have made this quilt in so many different colors, and I love to switch the colors. Maybe you want the white background with the red turkey. We did Turkey Tracks last year in Quilt Club Week. I think we had 5 quilts or 6, and each one of them was a different color combination of how we placed the colors. Most of them, I think, were only 2-color quilts, but how many different versions you can get. Now, that's one thing that I really love about Quilt Club Week is we'll take a quilt and we'll focus on it. We'll show you how to make the quilt, but we're also going to do what I call a lecture, an educational lecture before we show you how to make the quilt, talking to you about fabrics and about colors and about ideas, and showing you multiple combos so that you can go in and make your quilt and have a lot of information. So I really like taking a quilt, which this one is just as simple as you can be, and then giving you all these other ideas and concepts to go with that. And that's something that we do in Quilt Club Week. And like I said, there's 2020 is in there, 2021, 22, 23, 24. So we have 5 years of Quilt Club Week in there. And you can go, you join, and you can go in there and watch all of them just as many times as you want. Now, if you're a Premium Club member, Quilt Club Week comes with it. You don't have to purchase it or buy it separately. It comes with your Premium Club. We actually started Quilt Club Week because of COVID and people couldn't go and get motivated and see lots of different things. So we just built what I love about a quilt show and did it online, which is motivation, color, tools, different techniques, little crafty things, you know, just all kinds of things that you can make that are fun. Quick projects, more intense projects. But this one is really pretty. Now, I do want to tell you that we do not have any of this. This is the red tattered and torn fabrics, and it's our tan tattered and torn fabrics, and you cannot purchase that on the website just as loose yardage. But I do have 3 kits that will say Abby's Wedding Quilt on them, which is this one right here that we're going to show here in a few minutes. And of course you can take those, it's got the red and the white in it, the red and the tan, and so you can go in and purchase this and make that quilt. And you can flip it. There's enough fabric that if you want to do the light as your background and the red as the turkey, or red background with the white. Now also on this Jingle Jangle quilt, when you order your pattern, it's going to come with a star that you can use instead of a 9-patch. So we call that one Star Jingle, and then the 9-patch Jingle. Okay, so the next 2 quilts, now this one is called Abby's Wedding Quilt. I don't want Abby to fall. So this one is called Abby's Wedding Quilt. I love this kind of jagged looking star that's here and the little star inside. Now these we have used the diamonds on, and I'll show you how to do those diamonds here shortly. And then we used the Canadian geese, one of the diamond shapes for this sawtooth border here. We call it the crocodile or the alligator border because it's more jagged like teeth. And this is actually the block right here that you work on, but the interaction and the sashing is what comes together to make that one so beautiful. And this one is the one that I made, Abby's Wedding Quilt. Like I said, we have a couple of kits and the pattern. And then I want you to see this one here that is a New York, whoops, not yet. Star Jingle, I don't have it here to show for today's lecture. Now this one is Ocean Wave, and we'll come back to it here in just a minute.
Go back to this one. What's it called?
Abby's Wedding Quilt. So this one here is Abby's Wedding Quilt. Notice how we have the star in the middle with the little jagged circles coming around. And then this one here is a New York Beauty. Now this one was actually my inspiration when I made that one. And I did not want to do all of this handwork and all these sewing of these little pieces together. So I adapted it to the square and a square. And that of course is what you get. Now this quilt was made in 1870. So what is that, 160 years old? Yes, it was made in 1870, so it's 160 years old. Now the quilt is really in great shape when you look at it, but I want you to look through here, right through the middle, because this is where the quilt was folded in half. And so the quilt wore where the fold was. Look how beautiful the rest of the quilt is, what great shape it's in. But because the quilt was folded for so many years and so much of it life, it was, you know, I guess it's like us and wrinkles, you know, where our skin folds, that's where the wrinkle or the wear comes. And look at where this was at. And notice how this right here was right in the middle. So it was probably folded this way first and then this way. And look at some of this wear and tear that would go through here. So I suspect that this was the top of the quilt when it was folded, and this was down inside. And so it didn't get the wear and tear of it. All hand quilted, cross hatched. Just really, really beautiful. Still beautiful, even with all of its wrinkles. So this one is the old one, New York Beauty, and this one is Abby's Wedding Quilt. Okay, so this is next to our last quilt here. We'll talk about it, and then we'll do some diamonds. So if you have any questions, get those in. So this one is out of the reference book. It's called An Ocean Wave. Once again, look at all these different colors of red. You can get those in the Sweetheart bundle, and then choose a background that you like. I probably would get at least 4 yards of a background to go with this one. So I want them to look at that for just a second, and then let's get some diamonds out here to cut up. If you have any last minute questions, get those in. We're going to be finishing up here in just a moment. We don't normally do lectures in the afternoon like this, so we've got some sun coming in on some different places than what we normally do. Okay, that sun is going to come in on this, Steve. Let's see what this looks like down here. I'll talk about this one that doesn't have the sun on it, messing it up. Okay, so here is our block. And this one is called Liz's Gift, and we're going to be teaching this one at the retreat and at Quilt Club Week. So this one is kind of put together in a 9-patch fashion, like I talk about so much. We have a plain square, we have this pieced section for a square, and then we have one on the edge. And then this is the same here, and then of course our corner squares. So when we look at our piecing, we see flying goose, flying goose, flying goose, and then this inside here is what we call an option 18. It's a big flying goose, and we call it a Canadian goose. And you can see those in here. Now this comes together and it makes this curve because of these diamond shapes. So let's look at what we're going to do. So just like you have a plain square in the middle with strips on this side, now you have a diamond in the middle, strips on the side. You're basically going to do similar things. If you want it as a whole shape, just like we do the option 1, then see how you leave that 1/4 of an inch on all 4 corners. If you want to cut it in half to get your Canadian geese, which is what we need for that one over there, then we trim with these 1/8 of an inch. So we're just going to go to our ruler, and we have the 60 that goes here in the tip, and trim it up just like that. It's going to leave your 1/4 of an inch. And of course you would do that top and bottom, top and bottom. And then if you needed the 1/4 of an inch, then you go over here to the 120 with a 1/4, and it goes in this corner, and you trim it up and you get the 1/4. Now, if you're going to cut it in half, remember when we did our flying geese, we had to trim those corners different. So if you're going to cut it in half to get the Canadian geese so that we have our points right where they need to go, this is 1/8. So on your ruler, you have the 120 with 1/8. And so you're just going to put it in there and trim, leaving that 1/8 of an inch. And that's the perfect amount you need. So when you come back and sew a 1/4 and a 1/4, it's exactly where it needs to be. So these are what we made for the sawtooth border. to wrap this up. Sorry guys, I wondered how long I could last with my drainage and throat, and I guess I'm done. So sorry guys, I'm ready to be done anyway, but we're gonna have to cut it off now. And if you have any questions, just email and get to that text line and we'll be there to help.